everyone, welcome back to the Scrapbook Garage YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be crafting with you all today. We had a crazy busy couple weeks over at Scrapbook Garage. We had a little bit of a break last week due to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, so there was no video last week, but we're back to it this week. And I'm excited to share with you. If you're visiting us for the first time, welcome. And if you're coming back, then welcome back. We have lots planned for you today. It was kind of a video created a little bit on the fly, so it's been a busy 2 weeks. So we had our garage sale last weekend, and we got to see lots of friends there. So thank you all for your support there. And today I'm going to share with you some fun ideas on how to watercolor your own flowers to make your own holiday cards. I figured we've been doing fall for the last couple weeks, and we're getting lots of activity with people looking for Christmas ideas and Christmas cards and holiday cards. So I thought today would be a fun day to show you all how to create some holiday cards with using watercolor paints. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. We're going to be using the Spellbinders, one of the Spellbinders die sets, which I'll show you in just a minute. But if you're joining us, please pop into the chat and tell us where you're joining us from. And and we'd love to have your ideas and things in the chat as well. I'm excited to craft with you. So I'm going to jump right in. Don't forget, there is a free spark sheet that comes when you watch this video. You can access the spark sheets from our Facebook from our website. Hi, Cindy. Hi. I just saw you pop in there. Hi, Cindy. You can download the spark sheets. They go live just after we finish our YouTube live. So it'll take me a minute. The reason we do it after the live is so that we can include photos of the finished project. So we want to be able to include those. And sorry, I'm just getting a few notifications here. So welcome everyone. That's great. So you can access that on our web page. There will be a link in the description of this video as well. We will add it once we get it posted. It will add it to this video, so you can always come back, check the video description after the video is live on YouTube, and you'll be able to find the link there. And the other thing I'll encourage you to do too is please keep your ideas coming. We are excited to have an opportunity to engage with you. And it's called the Scrapbook Garage Community Idea Vault. So we'll include a link there too. We're getting lots of ideas and people are sharing, which is really wonderful. Thank you. That's really helping us make content for the channel that speaks to the things that you want to learn about, what you might like to create, or what you'd like to see us share. So there will be a link in the video or in the video description for that as well. Oh, hi, Ashley. I just saw Ashley pop on. So please be sure to visit that link and share your ideas, because it'll put you into a monthly draw. We do a draw for a store gift card that you can use in our e-commerce store or in our store, our brick and mortar store, which is located in Parksville, British Columbia, Canada. So if you're joining us from other places, please know we are experiencing a Canada Post strike right now. So we're looking at other shipping options, and we have to utilize other partners to ship products, but we are still filling online orders and still able to ship to you as well. So if you win the gift card, you might get to go shopping and have a few things to really enjoy. Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Hi, Joanne. It's good to see you. Thanks everyone for joining. That's great. I'm excited to play a little bit today. Like I say, this video was created kind of a bit on the fly. It's been a little bit busy the last few weeks, so but I have some fun things to share with you. So I think that's all the housekeeping. If anybody has any questions or anything as we go, just pop them into the chat. Ashley is here as well. She'll help me watch the chat for comments and questions, and we will go from there. So I'm just going to switch to my overhead camera so that you can see where we're kind of going with this video today, and then we'll jump right into creating. Okay, so bear with me. I'll just switch over here to the overhead camera. Well, there we go. I know our lighting is not really the best here. Let me see if I can get a Oh, goodness. Let's see if I shadow. Oh, there. Might be able to shadow some of it. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be creating some watercolor flowers that will allow us to make some Christmas cards for the holidays. So one of the things that I often run into is when I want to make a quick card, I might not have the exact paper that I need to be able to, sorry about my hand in the video there, just trying to block some of the overhead light so that you can actually see the project. So bear with me. Once we start creating, that should get a little bit better. And I'm actually going to try, let me just try plugging in one extra light here and I'll see if that will adjust things. Sorry, we're still learning all of the tech here. So trying to get it to work and make sure everything is cohesive. Is that better or worse? That's kind of worse, I think. So, okay, so we'll just disconnect that. Bear with me. There we go. That's a bit better. Is it? No, not really. There. I don't, it's so strange. Anyway, you get the idea. So it's the white card causing a lot of feedback with the lighting. So, but what I find is that sometimes it's just nice to make your own watercolored flowers. So, is that? I just can't seem to get the lighting correct. So if anybody has any ideas, that's great. We'd love to figure out how to get this white balance to not wash everything out when we're using white. So here, let me try one more thing. There. Well, that's a little bit better. That's a bit better. So that will allow everyone to see. Sorry about the shadowing in the background, but that's a little bit better for everyone to see. So what we're going to do is when I created this card, I used the Jack Richeson Watercolor Paints. So this one here is the 20 set. We just placed a large order with Jack Richeson for paints and things. So we have lots coming. So we're going to be using that. I have a paintbrush. This is just a watercolor paintbrush. I have a little sponge that I use when I'm watercolor painting. I also have a double container full of water here. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks for understanding. Yeah, we're working out all the lighting. I think that's a little bit better now, but we'll see as we go here. I do have a spray bottle, and that's just to activate my paints. I do have another watercolor palette. This is one that I use often. It's kind of looks messy, but it's really fantastic. Got some really good earth tone colors in there. This palette set here, you'll notice at the bottom it says it's pearlescent, which gives the flowers a really kind of cool shimmer. And then this one here kind of has some muted tones, so it'll kind of mellow the shimmer out a little bit. So it'll be a good balance between the two. And then of course I have my regular painting or card making supplies. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set all of these things aside here. I'll leave that there. I also have some Canson watercolor paper. We use 140 pound. This is what we use in our classroom. So I'm going to take a sheet of that. And what I've done is I have taken a sheet of that and cut it in half. So I have two colors. Sorry about the white glare again. We're going to be doing some pink flowers with one of them and then the greenery with the other. So, and all I'm going to do to get started is I'm just going to wet my paintbrush here. And I'm going to this paint set here has 2 layers to it. So I'm just going to set those open. And I'm going to share some watercolor tips with you as we go. One of them is you'll notice that I don't leave my brush sitting in the water. And that is because if you do that, you will leave, you can loosen some of the adhesive in the head here. So what I do is I just make sure that I bring it out of the water and just leave it sitting like that for a moment. And then I'm going to activate my paints here. So that's just giving it a good spritz to get those started, trying to keep the water away from my computer a little bit. We're going to be using some pinks and some greens for this one, so make sure those are active. These are really great little sprayers. I'm sure people are familiar. They're distress sprayers by Ranger. And the cool thing about these, they have a lock on them. So I don't know if you can see that, but right there, there's a little lock that you can turn them off and on, or lock the head so that the handle doesn't spray, and then you can lock it so that it does. So those are really fun to use. So I'm just going to put my water just out of the frame a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing here. I think, what's the best way? There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take water and I'm going to cover all of the background watercolor paper. I'm just going to go right to the edges. And what we're doing is we're just creating a wash that kind of gets the sizing on the paper released a little bit. And you can tell that it's I'm not being too careful with it. I just want to make sure that I'm covering the whole sheet and getting right to the edges, because we're basically making our own background paper. So, and everybody, can you all hear me okay? Like everything is okay with the mics? We were struggling with that for a little bit, and I think that we've solved that now, but yeah, as long as everyone can hear okay. Yeah, I hope everyone has some fun with watercolors. I've been taking a watercolor painting class on my days off, and it's been fun to just take some time and just play with a medium that allows us to just play and not have too much constraint about what the outcome looks like, right? So, but this is a fun way to do it. So I'm just I'm loading a lot of color into my brush, and then I'm just going to drop this color in, and you'll see it kind of blossom as we go. I'm using a pink. On the screen it looks a little bit orange, but okay. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Cindy. That's great. Yeah, Joanne, it's fun to just get messy every once in a while, right? We always seem to craft and have, like, I don't know, almost in a box type, right? And it's nice to just get messy and just be in the moment, right? So, and like I say, I'm just dropping in the color. I'm just covering the whole sheet with the color, not being too careful, just keeping all the edges wet. And the reason we wet the background first is, as you see, when I drop the paint on, it blossoms a little bit. It'll just help move that paint move. So one of the rules with watercolor painting is the watercolor and the paint will move on anything that's wet, or it will stay constrained if you don't make it wet first. So if you wanted like a hard edge, for example, like I can show you real quickly. So this piece of watercolor paper is dry. So if I take my watercolor paint and I draw on it, I can control that line, right? How it kind of creates a line. But if I make it wet first, there's a little bit of pigment in here because of the paint that in my brush. But if I go ahead and add paint to that is now wet, watch what happens. It'll just blossom out. You don't have that line anymore. But see how the water will only pool, it'll only go to that edge. If I tip it, you can watch it travel and it'll stop at that edge. See how it kind of forms a barrier for the watercolor paint to move around? So it won't actually go past that edge until I touch it. So watch what'll happen. I'll touch it here and it'll travel wherever I've touched my brush down. So now it will make a drip. So, and it'll travel back, but it'll stop again on that other side. So kind of cool how you can control the edges. And again, if I wanted to make it more controlled, then I could just paint, the letters that I wanted to paint, for example. So yeah, cool tips. I'm just going to set that aside and let that dry while we go back to this page. So this is still wet, so you can see when I'm dropping the paint in, it's still allowing that color to move a little bit. And I'm going to actually enhance this with a little bit more of a different color pink. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab some of this darker one. I don't know if it's darker or just a different color. It's kind of a pinky purple. And I'm just going to drop that color in as well. And it's just going to move around. It doesn't, like I say, we don't have to be too careful with it. We just want to add some color because we're going to die cut this in a little bit here. We'll turn it into some beautiful flowers. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And I think that's pretty good there. One of the things that I will remind you too, this paint here is pearlescent. So as we're painting, if I were to go to my other palette, which we're going to do in a moment, I have to remember that when I'm rinsing my brush, there's pearlescence to the water. I don't know if you can see that, but there's now mica in the water. So if I were to go straight into my other palette here and try to pick up, say, a darker purple or something like that, that isn't a pearlescent paint, even though this might be activated with clean water. If I'm rinsing my brush in this water here and then picking it up, I'm now adding pearlescence to this color. So you want to have two separate ones. This is clean water here, and I'll use that with this palette on this side. And then I'll save this reservoir for the other pearlescent paints to try to keep that mica separately. So what I'm going to do is just give that a rinse. And then I'm just going to set that aside for a moment. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to fix that now because I dropped my paints in over top of that. So let me just drop that in. There we go. I'm just going to give that a rinse. And then if I want to dry my brush a little bit, if it's too wet, I just kind of touch it onto a sponge. This is just a kitchen sponge that I use when I'm painting. I got it at the dollar store, and I've put it just in a little soap dish. So it's a great way to like dry your brush off, or sometimes if you have too much paint, you can just kind of touch it there and it'll take just the right amount of paint off of your brush while you're working. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this up, and you can watch this move a little bit. You can see that it's, you know, pretty wet. So I'm just going to let that dry, and I'm going to set that aside behind me while we do the other color, because we need some greenery as well. So, and what I'm going to do is just take this second piece of card here. I'm going to set that down, and I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to go ahead and use the other side of the water. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the same thing we did before. Just paint the background all over. This still has a little bit of mica in my paintbrush, but that's okay because we're going to use a darker color. So I know, sorry, I'm working off the screen here. We're still working through our house, getting our house back after our house flood. So I'm still working in about a 16-inch square here, trying to get this everything done in that tiny little space. So it's coming along though. We're just about done. All the construction is now done. We're just trying to get everything back to its home, which is very nice to have our house back. So so I'm going to go ahead and I'm picking up some green now, and I'm just going to again drop this in random places. And it's just kind of fun to get messy. I don't worry about my fingerprints on the side. Like if I'm hanging on to this on the edge and the paint's moving around my fingers, when I'm done, I'll just kind of pick it up and drop a little bit more paint in. This is very subtle here this time. Let me see what happens if I turn this overhead light on again. Yeah, it just washes it right out, so you can't really see anything. So, but that's okay. We're working on the overhead lighting, and hopefully soon we will have a better setup here. But it'll be a few more weeks yet. So I apologize for working in a shadow. Yeah, hopefully you can see everything. Oh, Wendy, you say, I've got a couple of ceramic mixing palettes with ridges. I've been playing with water brushes and various sizes. Love spraying to activate. Yeah, it really does, to spray to activate your paints. It's so when we started, we took some water and just sprayed it on, and that just helps to get them ready to pick up, for your brush to pick them up. A lot of times you'll see people come right into a dry palette with a wet paintbrush and try to pick up the color. It works, but it doesn't work as well as being able to have them already activated. And it depends on the paint too, I think. Like some of the really good artist quality paints you can kind of, have a bit more flexibility with, but these Jack Richeson ones are really fantastic. I think they're called semi-moist, so they look like they have a bit of a gloss to the front when you first see them in the package, but they don't actually go on like glossy like that. So they're beautiful pearlescent paint. So this one, you're going to see me use both palettes. So this one I'm just adding in a little bit more green. And because I'm trying to achieve, I don't want to paint the whole thing. I just want to make sure that I'm leaving some spaces for those other colors that we're using to shine through. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of squiggle this on, and then I'm going to bring in my other palette and show you how I kind of layer in the color while it's still wet. Just going to pick up a little bit more water. You can feel the paints when they get a little bit dry too. Your brushes can kind of stick to the paint puck, right? Yeah, so you'll know that it's time to add a bit more water. And I'm just going to drop in just a little bit of darker color. And just drop some of that in. And then I'll pull in this other palette. So this is all the pearlescent kind of shiny parts that for the holidays is fantastic. One of the things that we don't want to do, so I'm finished with this palette now, but it's still wet. So I'm not going to actually seal this up. I'm going to let it dry first so that all the water is evaporated and things are dry before I close it up. Most of the time it's not a problem if you close it, but I have seen paint palettes before kind of get a little bit of mold on them if you're not careful with them. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to let this dry naturally. So I'm just going to set it aside on a counter and let that dry while we go ahead, and I'm going to pull in this palette now. This is the one that I use when I love to paint outdoors. I like to urban sketch and paint outdoors. So this is the palette I take with me. And because I'm just using the greens here, I'm just going to activate the greens. I need to activate the whole palette. Maybe I'll do some there too. And then again, I'm just going to kind of come in. This time I'm going to mix a little bit of green to see if I can get it the color that I want it to be. I'm just going to take a couple different colors. I want it to be Christmassy, but not too over the top Christmassy. There we go. And maybe a little bit more green. That's kind of a good, this one has lots of water in it, which is great. So that's a pretty color. You can see I've got quite a bit of water in there now. So I've loaded up my brush really well, and now I'm just going to kind of drop this in. Again, I don't want to paint the whole background. I just want to kind of drop this color in over top. And when we die cut these, you'll see the variation of the different paints coming through. And again, once we get the color down, we can kind of use the paint to do the work for us. So, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. I'm just going to get a little bit more paint on here. And I think that'll be, oh, I picked up a little brown in the corner there. That's okay. And you could just keep layering and adding color. What you don't want to do is keep painting until it becomes mud. So if I were to just keep adding color on top of this, it would eventually just blend all the way together. And you don't want it to do that. You want to leave a bit of space. So I'm just going to rinse my brush here. And you can see I've got some pretty good puddles here of paint. You can see in the middle. There's lots of really great puddles. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to kind of let that dry for a second. I'm going to set aside that paint palette. Just make sure that it's flat so it doesn't drip. And then I'm just going to pick this up and I'm going to let that paint travel because the whole background is wet. It should travel outside. Oh, and maybe it's dry in some spots. Let me just reactivate that. So I'm just going to drop in a little color or a little bit of water, just clean water. And it will help that to move again. You can see how that edge, just touching that edge of the puddle with my paintbrush will allow that now to move. There we go. So I'm just going to kind of move that around a little bit and let it kind of do its thing. You can see it. There's so much water on here that you don't want it to kind of look drippy, but you do want to see how by blending it, you can start to get that watercolor look. Wherever I have an edge here, I'm just going to kind of dance my brush along the edge just to get those moving again. Just because I don't want it to have really harsh lines. I want it to kind of all blend together. So that's good. Drop that. I think that's pretty good. Like I like the variation that we're getting there. There's no real hard lines, which is great. So I'm just going to set those aside and I'm going to go ahead and let those dry. And then because we're on YouTube, in the interest of time, I will show you time lapse. We had a couple this is what it looks like when it's finished. You can see that I've die cut some flowers here that we're going to be using, but you can see the variation there of how the paints dry. They dry really nicely. You can use a heat gun to dry your watercolor paper if you choose to. And there's some variations of the green here, and that's kind of the coloring of the greens that will come out. You can see when we die cut this, how it goes from kind of a lighter green all the way into the middle here, and then a little bit darker. So you're going to see some of the variation. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and die cut some of these so that you can see that variation. See how it's darker on the edges, a little bit lighter. I know our camera is not fantastic, but, and there's some other pieces there that we've used. So the greens, you can see how they're a little bit darker, just like in nature, they're all different colors, right? So, and then for the flowers, what happens when we've die cut them is they also become variegated. It's harder to see because the camera isn't fantastic, but if you give it a try, I promise they are so fun to do. So I'm just going to set aside my watercolor stuff now because we're kind of finished with the watercolor painting part of it. And I have a little cloth here. So what I'm going to do is just give my surface a wipe to make sure there's no water down. Have you guys played with watercolor paints before to make your own flowers? It's quite a fun way to, sometimes when you don't have just the exact color of paper that we need, it's fun to create our own, right? So okay, so what we're gonna do now that we have these watercolor flowers made, and these ones are dry, like I say, in the interest of time, I didn't want to spend time just drying them on while we were all online together, so I dried them ahead of time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little dollop of glue in the middle of the big ones, the big flowers. What I've done is I've used the let me see, what did I do with it? Oh, this one here is the, I'll show you the die set that we're using. Hopefully these don't fall off. I use this set quite often. So this is the set here from Spellbinders. For those that are interested, the number is, I don't know if you can read that. It's pretty unclear. I'll read it to you. S5-527, and it is called Holiday Blooms. There's Holiday Blooms. And on the back, it has all of these beautiful foliage dies. So we're using this die here, and there's the smaller one. And then we've used some of these foliage dies. You can see they're still in my pocket because I haven't put them back on here. But look at all these other, we use this piece as well. We'll use that in this class, in this kind of video. But it also has some like generic flowers that you can use, you know, some on stems, all the little pieces. These ones here go on the ends of these, for example. There's some little petals here and also some regular just regular leaves, some more little flowers. And then this one has bulrushes, which is very fun to use as well as fillers. So, and then there's some extra heads for the bulrushes, because if you wanted them in different colors, rather than having to die cut all the stems and everything, they've given you the extra pieces right here to be able to put on top, which is really fantastic. So, yeah, so that's the one that we're using. We're going to set that aside again. I better tuck it back in my pocket because the dies will go flying. I actually have two sets. You'll see I have two sets here. We use these quite often for our classes. So because of that, we have two sets, which makes die cutting super fast when you're kidding for, you know, 10 or 20 people. It goes pretty quick if you have two sets. Okay, so what I'm going to do when I put these flowers together, you could just put it over top and stagger them. What I like to do is I like to bend these up a little bit, right? So that you can, and what'll happen is it'll naturally create this little cup, and then that part becomes flat so that you can put it on your flower and have that dimension. So I'm just going to set that down in the middle, and I'm just going to hold it there for a moment. I just want to offset it a little bit so that when it does, when it is dry, these little leaves are in between the larger ones. So I'm just going to set that one apart to dry, and then I'll do the same thing with this one. Again, I'm just going to give this a little cup. Yeah, Cindy, the die set really is awesome. There's another one, most of you have probably seen it. It's called Bold Blooms, and it was all the rage last spring. There's a ton of Pinterest videos and stuff, or not videos, Pinterest pictures of people using that die set. This one is the Christmas version of the same thing, and it is fantastic. It's a really great all-around holiday set to have for sure. I think we have one set left in stock, and we have more on the way that we've reordered it again for this holiday season. So if you're interested, you just send me a message and we can connect about that. But it's a fantastic set. So once I have those together, that one's off center. So sorry, bear with me. I'm going to fix that for a moment. There we go. I have a bit of a handshake, so trying to get things straight is quite interesting sometimes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to also add, this is a half-used sheet, of course, but these are the beautiful flat back gems from Spellbinders as well. These are the gold ones. So I'm going to go ahead and take my tweezers. I'm just going to grab one of these middle-sized ones. They are self-adhesive, but what I'm going to do is add another little dot of adhesive here just for some insurance. As soon as I get my well-used Nuvo glue, there we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that to the middle and just hold that. And I'm not too worried about if there's glue. See how there's glue around the edge? It'll dry clear, so I'm not too worried about that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do that with the other one here. I use this glue so much that the labels have almost worn right through. See that? It's actually the Deluxe Nuvo adhesive. It's really fantastic adhesive. And I use the art glitter glue as our go-to for construction stuff as well, but sometimes I like it especially when I'm on a video or teaching, I like a little bit more playtime. And this one gives us a bit more playtime than the art glitter. But I have both of them in my toolbox, and I use them both equally as much. So there's our little flowers, and then I also have some foliage set aside. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in our card base here. Just bear with me. I'm just picking up a few things. So, and I have to share this little tip with you. So there's some of the foliage that we've die cut. See how this one, you can really see the variation on this one? See how it's like dark through here and then it goes lighter and lighter, which looks really cool on a card. And hard to get out of pattern paper if you're using pattern paper or cardstock, just because cardstocks, it's not often that they'll have that variation in color. So it's nice to have a few kind of other ways to create some cards. And then I know this is really hard. I'm so sorry. Every time we use white paper, it goes really kind of crazy in this lighting. So what I've done is I've just taken a piece of white cardstock and I've ran it through my embossing folder. This one is an old Tim Holtz one, but you could use any embossing folder. Just run it through your Big Shot, and you could use this one here. I think it's called wood plank, I think. Or something. I'm not sure. Sorry, it's from my stash, so I have to have a closer look. I think it's called wood plank. But you could use snowflakes or anything else that is kind of the theme that you would like to do. And what we did for this first card, I'll tip that. So we did this one in the portrait orientation. Sorry, I can't figure out how to block there we go, the light for you. There we go. We did this one in the portrait orientation. So I figured we would do this one in the landscape to show the difference of how you might be able to do that. Well, that's not too bad, but oh gosh, the light there, that's better. The lighting is terrible. I apologize. So these pieces here, I've actually created, and I'll do this in a future video. I've created these using the Spellbinders Better Note Hot Glimmer machine. That's what it is, the Spellbinders Glimmer machine. So, and what a glimmer machine does is it allows you to use plates to create foiled sentiments and images. So very cool. And these little gold frames here are actually offcuts from a class. We could just cut them out with rectangular dies. We always save our extra little bits and pieces. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So, you know, these old binders, this is a Jennifer McGuire tip. So thank you, Jennifer, for sharing this with all of us. This is one of those really old, not old, I shouldn't say that. It's previous technology. It's like one of those photo albums that have like a peel and stick. This kind of lifts up, if I could actually get my hands to pick it up. I'll try from the bottom. There we go. There, it's those peel and stick, so this comes off. And what I do is whenever I'm die cutting for a class or anything, I will actually just put all my extra bits in this book. So you can see that I've had some like extra little pieces, and then there's like sentiments and things. and little mushrooms that we made for a class. So I keep all of my extra bits, and I'll show you when we get, these are all just, there's extra Christmas bits, right? So whenever I'm looking for something that I kind of just want to, what would this look like with this doily shape, for example, I can just pull from this book, and it will have some pieces for me to try out. So these are extra from other classes. And then I have, these are some like die cut pieces. But see here, we have this little baggie. These are all the scraps that most of the time people would throw away when they're die cutting out these squares. And I've saved them in a little baggie so that we can pair them with things like this when we go to make other cards. So these little, I think they're called magnetic page photo albums to hold all your die cut pieces and little sentiments and things. It's really handy to have this book to be able to refer to when we are creating. So that's how we've created these little frames. They were just little offcuts that I added the frame to. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, I know that this piece here is going to go straight down, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to my card base here as soon as I get my glue to work. I don't have very much strength in my hands, so there we go. There we go. And because this is textured, it's better to use a liquid adhesive than a double-sided tape. You can use a tape as well. It just often will sit a little higher because the tape, of course, sits on the surface of the texture where there. So see how it's textured? The tape would go across those little valleys and things, whereas the glue can go right down into it. So yeah, so make sure that you can, sometimes I'll double it up. I'll use different adhesives, or maybe I'll add my tape and then reinforce it with the glue as well. It just depends on how much it's going to carry, right? How much weight it has to carry. And then, of course, like on our spark sheet, I'll show you the spark sheet for this week. And I'm sorry if it gets glary. Remember this is how this is the free downloadable kind of a project idea sheet for you, and it walks you through my process. So there's my sketch that I start with. I always create a sketch first. Sometimes I do it on the computer. Most of the time I draw them, but for you guys, I figured I should make them look a little more professional than a hand-drawn sketch. So so I've made a little sketch here for you. And then I plan everything out. So we just jot down our ideas and kind of make sure we know where we're going. I pull together all my tools and supplies, which is the assemble part, and then I refine it. Is there anything I need to change, or maybe something that's not quite fitting, for this one here, you can see that's off the edge. Maybe I need to refine it and bring that in a little so it'll fit in an envelope. And then I go ahead and create them. So, and then that ends up being what we do. But we always do a dry fit first. So, so that sheet will be downloadable on our website as soon as I get a chance after this video is, after we finish the video. But I always do a dry fit. So this time, I don't know if we want to do angled or straight. What do you guys like? Do you like it? Do you usually put your sentiments on your cards on an angle like that, or like this, or do you put them straight? Do you prefer them straight? Let me know in the comments what you think, and then we'll go from there. But while we're waiting for the people to pop into the chat, I'm going to go ahead and pull in my my little flowers now, and they should be fairly dry. I'm going to also just pull up the leaves a little bit, give it a bit of shape. And I apologize, my hands are a little bit shaky today. I'm a little tired. It's been a little bit of a week. So there we go. So I know that that's going to kind of go in that area a little bit. Looking back to the sketch, that's kind of going to go there. And then at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pop these up. Oh yeah, Joe, good idea. Are you meaning the book? Are you meaning, yeah, the book was a game changer for me. Like, we kit so much. Yeah, angled looks nice, Cindy, but you do both too. Yeah, I think it depends on the card, right? I love it on an angle. Yeah, it's kind of more whimsical, I think, on an angle. I feel like it almost is more formal if we put things straight, or like, I like them a little bit more whimsical as well. So maybe I'll do it. Maybe we'll do this one this way so that it kind of, this one goes this way on an angle and this one will go that way on an angle. Maybe that would help marry them. I don't know. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay these out. When I'm playing with these flowers, one thing to notice, I'll put it in my hand so you can, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. On this side, the petals are a little bit shorter than on that side from the middle. Do you see that? So I'm taking that into account when I go to put this down, because if I put it this way, the petals come right into the sentiment. Whereas if I turn it and put the shorter petals there, even though the bead is in the same spot, it's going to have a little bit more space for the words. So when you're kind of putting your flowers down, it's good to kind of have a look at the shape of the flower and see if it kind of lends itself better to be one way than the other. Yep, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then what I do is I just kind of take this foliage here and I'm just going to tuck it in. I know I'm not going to stick it down yet. I'm going to tuck it in. And often what I will end up doing is having to take my scissors and just give this a little bit of a haircut and just trim off little bits and pieces so that they don't stick out past where I want them to be seen. So, and then this little piece of holly, I think maybe we need a little greenery up at the top here. So I'm just going to add that there. And then maybe this piece you can tuck in there. And again, see how it's poking out the side here as I wanted. I don't know if you can see that there. See how it's poking out the side? It means it's a little bit too long. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a haircut again. And then I'm going to go ahead and tuck that in. That's great. And then I have this one little piece of gold foliage. You can cut these little pieces of, like, I think it's supposed to be a branch that you put other flowers on, but I think it's pretty even just by itself to pull in a little bit of balance between the metallics. So I'm just going to kind of tuck that in and see what that looks like. And I think that's pretty good. I'm going to shadow that for you all so you can see. And I can see that I'm off a little bit. So once I'm happy with the way that that card's going to come together, what I do is I just take these clusters and I just move them up, try to keep them in the same formation. And then the same with this one, because I need to be able to put this in place. And the reason I do that is so I remember how these flowers and those flowers were going to be together, or how they were going to go. I'll move these up so you can see them. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this piece and I pop this piece up. So I'm going to grab my dimensionals. We always have this debate. Dimensionals, foam tape, pop dots. I think everybody kind of has their, I think most of the people that I know that were involved with Stampin' Up! At one time, most of them call it dimensionals. And the people that haven't had a lot of interaction with Stampin' Up! Usually call it foam tape or pop dots. So I'm curious to know, those of you on the call, do you call it foam tape or pop dots? And do you think that that rings true? Do you think a lot of people that have had relationship or have been creating with Stampin' Up!, is that where that term came from? The dimensionals, is that where it came from? I think for me that seems to ring true, but it could be anywhere in between. Could be anywhere in between. So I'm just adding some foam tape to the back of this sentiment here. We call it here in the UK 3D foam. Oh, hi Emma, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. That's great. You call it 3D foam. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. That we import a lot from the UK, so that's good to know that I'm using the wrong search terms to find things. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's great. Yeah, I've heard it called 3D foam as well. And again, so I'm going to share a little tip here again, so you can see I'm peeling off the backings here. And I am going to add, again, this is a flat surface going onto a textured surface. So if I am just going to marry these two together, the adhesive is going to sit only on the pieces that are raised. So I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid adhesive to the back of this as well, so that it will get down into the grooves between the texture. So whenever you're using an embossing folder, it's always good to put a little bit of wet adhesive on your foam tape or 3D foam or pop dots, dimensionals, whichever word you use to describe it on the back, so that the glue will actually sit down into the crevices and give you a better application. So I apologize if I get my head in the frame. I just want to make sure that I'm getting that kind of fairly close to the middle. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stick that down. There we go. So now we've got a little bit of space to be able to reset some of these. Again, I'm going to look for that kind of, I like how these two petals, see how that one's kind of pointing down and that one's pointing across. It kind of frames that really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. But what I am thinking about is underneath here is where I want to put the another piece of foam adhesive. And I'm also going to tack these down with glue. And that will actually keep that flower a little bit more centered, I guess. Yeah, and well, not really centered, but anchored is the word I was looking for. So these are a little bit too big, so I'm just cutting one of my foam pieces in half so that I don't want it to be showing too much from underneath. So I'm just going to take note of where this piece of foam is going to go, and it's kind of just up and to the right of the flower, which means when I turn it over, it needs to go up and to the left. And then I'm just going to peel this off, add some liquid adhesive to that, and I'm also going to put some on the two petals that I know are going to be anchored on the top of the sentiment. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'll just hold that there for a moment while it anchors. And then make sure those are stuck down. I call it whatever comes to mind first. Yeah, Cindy, yeah, me too. And it's funny. It depends on if I'm in the classroom, I tend to call it foam tape. I don't know why, even though it's not a tape. I haven't used tape in a long, long time unless I'm doing frame cards or something where I need it to be a tape format. So I'm not exactly sure why I call it foam tape, but most of the people call it like foam adhesive or they'll just call them, yeah, like, or pop dots. Foam squares, I get that quite a bit too. Foam squares. So this little piece, I'm just gonna, now that we have this raised up, I can just tuck this in underneath. You'll notice I only put a little bit of adhesive at the end. And that's because if I were to put glue on all of this, it'll stick it right down. And I like the movement that you get by just adding a little bit of adhesive to the end. So I'm just gonna tuck that in underneath, make sure that doesn't move too much. And I only want a little bit of it showing. I don't want the whole thing showing because it'll be a little too much at the top. And then after this is dry, I'm going to come back in and give this a little more lift because I keep pushing it down with my fingers. So we'll give that a little more lift, and that will help that to have a little more play. And then on this side, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with this flower. So I'm going to actually play with this a minute to see which way I think the flower should go. So, and again, I think that kind of is a good orientation. Again, the longer leaves are on the corner and the shorter is at the top, just to give it a little bit more play with the words. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one. I don't know that I'll need to add adhesive because I think it will be right on top of this corner of the sentiment. So not adhesive, foam adhesive. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and flip that over and add just a little bit to those two petals because I know those are going to be touching. And then this time I'm just going to anchor it by pushing down right there and then add those two little petals there. And that will give it a little bit of playtime as well. But these watercolor flowers, like I've seen them done. The other thing you could do too is once you've created the sheet, sorry, I'll pull this back in and let you see what it looks like. So these, you can tell, if I tip this, you can see how it's still shiny. So that means it's still wet, right? So we don't want to be die cutting it until it's completely dry. But you can see the depth of the variation in color too. So if you were like mindfully thinking that, you know, I know that I'm going to have, for example, that's going to be where I'm going to cut the flower, while it's still wet, you could drop in darker color or like other colors, and it would end up on the leaves to be variation, like variegated color as well. So maybe darker in the middle, lighter to the outside, something like that. So you could be, you know, more mindful of how to create different variations. And the other thing you can do as well is you can reactivate these little flowers. So after you've die cut them, if I wanted to add more variation in color, I could just make this wet again and just drop in a little bit of color, and it will bloom again and blossom out following the lines of wherever it's wet. So that's a fun tip as well, so that you can always make things a little bit darker or add a little bit of variation in color if you wanted to as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of do a dry fit for these pieces again, put them back in where I think they're going to go. I think we already trimmed those ones down, so I think that's pretty good. And then, oops, and then I'm going to also put this one in place. And I think that looks pretty good. So now I can go ahead and glue these down. Again, I'm only going to add glue to the very stem. And remember, we gave this one a haircut because it's pretty long. So we want to make sure that you can also trim the tops if you want, but I kind of like the finished edge on this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and tuck that in. And again, I'm going to try to hold that in place once I can get my tweezers out of the way. Tweezers are fantastic for working with some of the Spellbinders dies. I mean, I know a lot of you are familiar with Spellbinders dies. I really love them. They're a front runner in the industry for sure. Fantastic quality, really great value as well. But I have to say, some of their sets have a bajillion little pieces, and without tweezers, I don't know that it would be possible to put some of them together. There's some pretty small dies in some of their sets. So a good pair of, these are called reverse tweezers. So how they work, let me set this one and I'll show you. Most of you are probably familiar and probably have one or two sets in your craft stash already, but for those of you that are maybe watching on the replay and aren't familiar how these tweezers work, I've had these ones for ages and ages and ages, and how they work is when you squeeze them together, they open, and when I release them, it kind of holds the pressure in the head. So I can do things like pick up a flower and then hold that, and it will hold it for me until I squeeze them to release it. So really fantastic, especially if you're heat embossing or, and for work like this where you need to kind of, my fingers are a little too big to fit in there. So, or for me, because I have a bit of a handshake, the tweezers kind of make things a little bit easier to place, which is nice as well. And again, just going to set this last piece and we'll tuck that one in. I'm just going to tuck in my tweezers there and hold that down a little bit. Oop, there we go. And then once this is all dry, which is fairly dry, I'm just going to come back and I'm going to lift the petals of the top little flower. And I'll show you in a minute how cool that looks when you've got it kind of, I mean, if you're mailing them, you would want to have them a little flatter, but see how that gives it the dimension, right? It's just fun to play and have that, yeah, a little bit more playful. So there we go. We watercolored a little bit today. We played a little bit with some dimensional flowers. We decided that it's okay to call foam tape 3D foam or foam tape or pop dots or any of the above and all apply, which is really great. And we just had some fun together learning about watercoloring flowers to make your own background paper and make your own flowers for your holiday cards. So let me just switch to my front facing camera. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. There we are, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you had fun. It was fun for me to craft with you and just play a little bit and put together some fun watercolor. It's always fun to play with paint. And even when you're feeling not too creative, you can make some backgrounds and things to prepare for the future. And maybe you can make some other colors and things too. So, I hope you all had fun today and that you'll make some. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. It was great to see you. I hope you all give it a try. If you give it a try, please share with us. We would love to see what you're creating. You can join our Facebook community as well. We have a Facebook group called the Scrapbook Garage Creative Community, and you're welcome to join us there. We would love to see what you're creating. Or you can email us if you're not on Facebook. You can email us pictures or text us pictures. We'd love to see what you create. And please do send your ideas through the Community Idea Vault. We will send the link, like I say, on the description. And you never know, you might win a gift card and you could buy some new watercolor paints with it. It would be super fun. So, oh yeah, I never thought about using watercolor for the background for die cutting. That's great. Well, I'm glad, Wendy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, And you're welcome. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I know I always forget too, right? I have all these beautiful palettes that I want to play with more than I ever get a chance to, and it's just a fun way to create some fun flowers. And you can do other things too. So get creative and use them with your dies, and then send me pictures so I can see what you're working on. Okay. And don't forget, the Spark Sheet will be available. I'm just going to upload it to our website after I take a couple pictures here. So it may be about 30 minutes or so, but it will be ready for you to download and add to your collection. So anyway, I hope you all have a great week, and we will see you again next Tuesday at 2 right here. And please share your ideas and keep your ideas coming. I appreciate all of you. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.